Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. I'm very excited to have you on my channel, so don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is story time, or the day of our chapter exchange. Oh, and I'll introduce, this is another dragon from the Renaissance Festival. He has, I don't know that you can really see it. He has a spider hat on. So, if you're writing with me, today is story time, the day of our chapter chain. If you're writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then send your chapter with written permission to writewithmichaela@gmail.com. I will post the email address at the end of the video and in the description below. You have to hit the 3 dots and the more, and you get to it. I look forward to reading your chapters. All chapters are writing prompts read on the channel, whether they are mine or another writer's work or copyright protected material. And no one may use any part in writing their own stories. This story is PG-13, so if you're under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance. This story is in its rough draft stage, just as the last stories and writing prompts we've heard. And the title of this story is Princess Emnorawyn Stygerguard. And today we are reading chapter 35. If you would like to read along, then send to the email I stated earlier and request a PDF of the chapter. Make sure you are specific. Now let's start. Princess Emnorawyn Stygerguard, Chapter 35, War. All 3 groups were only resting for the remainder of the night, and then they were flying to the Great Oak. If they didn't find their enemies, then they would attack the enemy's refuge. But they would all attack King Zargarmon's refuge first. Then they would decide if they wanted to go to King Balbatos's refuge or King Kronos's refuge. The 3 ally armies met once again in Tal's kingdom. All dragons had riders, because the dragons that had riders died just had another rider assigned to them. Even though the dragons didn't necessarily choose, they did not oppose the new riders. Kings picked riders based on training and on magical abilities because that was what they needed for the immediate. Many new riders told their dragons that after everything was over, then they would let the dragon choose. But really, a bond between the dragon and rider was already forming. The allies lifted off and flew north to the Great Oak. Before they got to the Great Oak, many could see mudmen stretched out in wide rows well before the woods. The mudmen were marching and chanting. King Rhymes looked over his shoulder. He could no longer see his kingdom, but he knew his kingdom was in line with the mudmen's march, and he didn't expect that he would ever see his kingdom again. He looked back at the rows and then signaled his daughter for the numbers. Princess Emnorawyn was receiving counts from her magic, and it thoroughly astounded her that there were more mudmen than when they had aided King Trophilmore before. The total count for the mudmen was 23,112. She signaled her father the number, and then she thought to Stygerguard how they could have gotten that many that far away. Stygerguard thought to her that they must have already been marching toward them, but no one spotted them in the dark of night. Princess Emnorawyn then sent her magic to get counts for the animal people. Thankfully, her magic let her know that the animal people were still north of the Great Oak. She signaled this news to her father. The group split up. Even though there were none of their soldiers on the ground, a substantial portion of their group flew north to handle the animal people, while less than a third of their group stayed for the mudmen. Sizemore was one of the third that stayed for the mudmen, and he knew if the mudmen broke their line and kept going, then they would flatten Jor's kingdom, even more so than it was now. Sizemore had been working on enhancing his dragon's breath, and he was the most proficient besides his granddaughter. Before Stygerguard arced up to dive to the animal people, he thought to Princess Emnorawyn, "Place a magical protective suit on us similar to the no permission suit you used before, but make it strong, like your armor." Princess Emnorawyn realized that Stygerguard was not going to stay up as high as they had been staying. She ran through the spells she knew, and she sent thoughts to Queen Lacrity to see if she knew of a spell. Before she received any return thoughts, a book opened up in her mind, and she quickly read the spell. Then she sent the thoughts of the spell to everyone she could think of. Stygerguard noticed golden bubbles leaving from around him, so he asked Princess Emnorawyn how the spell was supposed to work, and shouldn't the bubbles with the spell stay around them to protect them? Princess Emnorawyn thought to him that she was sending the spell to others so they could also have the protection. Stygerguard knew once again why he had chosen Princess Emnorawyn. She thought of others sometimes before she thought of herself. He asked if she were ready. She was. Stygerguard arced up. The allies knew just to let Stygerguard do whatever he had in his mind to do, and they slowed up. They would fly in behind him. Just before Stygerguard swooped down, he let Princess Emnorawyn know to place her hands on the base of his neck and do whatever it was that she did after he leveled off. Princess Emnorawyn was ready. She didn't pull out a sword because she had been training to use her magic. She magically secured herself to Stygerguard and readied her magic to rain magical spears on the enemy. She would magically enhance the spears with the poison she carried. Princess Emnorawyn glanced down at the top of Stygerguard's arch, and she knew she had never been that high before. Stygerguard dove down, and he was well before the line of animal people. Princess Emnorawyn was suddenly very scared. She thought to Stygerguard to pull up, and he thought, not yet. Princess Emnorawyn felt her heart in her throat, and when they leveled off, they were very close to the ground, and she knew the animal people would all jump at her. Stygerguard flew directly at the front row of the animal people, and he released his breath. Princess Emnorawyn did her part and pressed her hands against the base of his neck. At the same time, she released the spell with the spears. Animal people were ready to jump at them, but the lightning and the spears knocked the front rows back. Prince Hadley was saying, "Pull up, pull up, pull up! You're too low! Come on, Stygerguard, you have to pull up!" His dragon thought to him not to worry because he wouldn't fly that low near that lot. The allies were ready to fly in behind Stygerguard, albeit at a much higher level, but they all held their breaths as Stygerguard flew on just above the heads of the animal people. Even after his breath stopped, they saw animal people jumping at the princess and seemingly hit an invisible shield. Commander Offerton touched his fingers to the message ball in his collar, and he understood. He thought the plan to his dragon, and he seen King Cronte. King Cronte hadn't had time to receive the message. He too took the time now, as he watched Commander Offerton's dragon fly nearly as low as Stygerguard had. Allies were cheering as the animal people jumped as Commander Offerton, and they hit an invisible wall and didn't touch Commander Offerton. That was what they needed, to be able to get close enough for the dragons to use their breath. The sky seemed to darken, but it was masses and masses of flying gorillas flying into the battle, and right behind them were 10 of the extra-large birds. Sizemore had taken his turn to fly at the mudmen, and while some others were taking a turn, he received a message from his granddaughter. He hadn't expected a message, so he thought it might be bad. Perhaps they needed to help with the battle more north and ignore the mudmen for now. Sizemore pushed his eyebrows together as he received the words to the spell. He told the message ball to slip in his collar so he could try the spell, and if it worked, he wanted the message ball to go to every dragon rider in the group. Sizemore's dragon arched up, but not nearly as high as Stygerguard. Only Stygerguard flew so volatilely. His dragon flew in a smooth arc that was only slightly inclined. Sizemore wasn't afraid of flying so low because the mudmen didn't jump. They just marched and chanted. Up until now, they hadn't flown too low because of the possibility of animal people joining. Sizemore's dragon felt the protection spell and thought to Sizemore that he could breathe his breath and then immediately fly into the clay statues. Sizemore wasn't sure, but he told the dragon that he trusted him. The rest of the group watched as Sizemore's dragon was gliding only 3 or 4 feet above the ground and letting loose his flame, and then flying into the mudmen. Sizemore's dragon warned him that lifting up and out would be a sharper incline. Sizemore thought he understood, and he was ready. As they lifted up, Sizemore looked back over his shoulder and saw all the bits of clay. He quickly thought to the message to go to the other dragon riders, and if it could split or duplicate itself to accomplish that, he would appreciate it. The magical message ball flew out of his collar and immediately split into a couple dozen of golden balls. All of the dragon riders knew of the magic and the message ball, so they paused taking turns and received the message. They felt it was rather important. A few dragon riders in this group still hadn't been successful in saying a spell, but those that had been successful signaled they would go next. With them flying so low, they could bake more of the mudmen, and then not having to swoop again made things go faster. Of course, the rows farther back would walk into the baked mudmen if they didn't fly into them. The flying gorillas had knocked off several riders, but there weren't as many animal people to handle, so the groups of 4 were doing better than before. And several were able to say the protection spell over themselves, and many knew the rope spell, so they tossed magical rope nets with magical weights over the extra-large birds. That grounded the extra-large birds, so the birds were squawking. Princess Emnorawyn was doing all she could, but sometimes that was just magically hanging on. Then once again, Stygerguard jerked toward the north as his thoughts screamed, "Abomination!" 3 extra large dragons that looked like Stygerguard were flying in. Princess Emnorawyn felt disheartened. How could they keep fighting these things when the kings against them could make them with no apparent growth period? Stygerguard wanted her blades in the hearts of all 3, but she only had 2 blades. Thankfully, she had recovered her blade from the last Stygerguard replica. Stygerguard flew at the group of 3 dragons, and the rest of the allies kept handling their part of the battle. None hoped to defeat the colossal dragons themselves. Stygerguard thought to Princess Emnorawyn, "My son is on his way. If something happens to me, then you can ride him." Princess Emnorawyn pondered his words as she threw one of her swords like she had before. She directed it magically, and it hit between the shoulder blades. But just before Stygerguard rolled away, a second Stygerguard replica flew directly at Princess Emnorawyn. Even her magical shield was not enough to protect her. Princess Emnorawyn shot up the spell for the magical rope net, but the loop encircled the replica, and not Stygerguard. Stygerguard let out a loud roar, but he turned to fight the 3rd abomination, while Princess Emnorawyn's rope clung to the 2nd. King Rhymes said to himself, I can't watch. He circled away from Princess Emnorawyn to the largest group of flying gorillas. He started fighting for everything he was worth. He fought with ferocity that his men had never seen in him before. The 2nd abomination knew the rope encircled his neck. He flew erratically and shook his head. Prince Hadley saw her hanging precariously, but he thought she could safely drop from that distance. He was also on the ground, and he worked his way toward her. He and Commander Offerton were once again back to back. Commander Offerton had joked and said they had to stop meeting like this. Princess Emnorawyn magically lengthened the rope before she dropped. Then she pulled her remaining sword. She had thoughts running through her head. "Princess, I can have my plate come to me." Then Kalacia thought the spell to her. Princess Emnorawyn was just swinging her sword at animal people, because although there weren't as many as the last battle, there were still several. She just dutifully recited the words in her head, and the magic asked her what she wanted to pull to herself. Princess Emnorawyn felt the ground shake as the first Stygerguard replica crashed to the ground. Lightning was wrapping around it like it had with the first one they had killed. Princess Emnorawyn thought, I would like my sword. The next thing she knew, a lion man was jumping at her, and she wasn't fast enough to swing her sword. The lion man knocked her back, and 2 seconds later, another lion man leaped at the one on her as a lot of animal people joined the battle from the east. Princess Emnorawyn received these thoughts. Emnora, princess, use your magic to get up. Princess Emnorawyn did, but then she ducked as her second sword flew to her. Thanks, Daniel, she called, and then she rotated to see if she could find her second sword. A gorilla man held it. He pointed the pommel and grip toward her. Gorilla man said, Princess, take this. Princess Emnorawyn nodded her head to the gorilla man, and she took her sword. The sword slid across his hand, and she saw blood. I'm sorry, I didn't. We will fight together now, said the gorilla man, and he turned his back to her. Princess Emnorawyn put her back to the gorilla man and started fighting once again. The whole battle heard a loud roar as the 2 Stygerguard replicas fought Stygerguard. Prince Hadley and Commander Opperton were getting close to Princess Emnorawyn, and they saw Daniel turn to her and heard him shout, Emnora, help your dragon. Use your magic and put wings on yourself. Princess Emnorawyn stepped away from the gorilla man and made wings. The gorilla man put a hand on her shoulder. You might want to magically cut at least the lower half of your armor. The weight will be too much. Princess Emnorawyn had looked at the gorilla man and nodded. She magically cut off the bottom half of her armor, and then she jumped as high as she could as she magically flapped her magically made wings. Prince Hadley reached the gorilla man. You can join our circle now. Gorilla man nodded. Soon Daniel joined them, so their circle had 2 men and 2 animal people. Other soldiers noticed. They didn't know the whole story, but they allowed the animal people coming from the east to join their circles. Some, of course, were not shoulder to shoulder, as the animal people sometimes fought on all fours. Princess Emnorawyn sheathed one sword, and she flapped her wings as hard as she could. Even though she was using magic to fly, it took a lot of magic. Still, she had ridden Stygerguard plenty of times, so she flew up and over the 3 Stygerguards in a fight. 2 were replicas, and 1 was real. Princess Emnorawyn dove down, adjusting her wings as she had seen Stygerguard do many times. She held her sword in front of herself, but she would shoot it forth like she had the spears. She received thoughts. Did you try my spell? Isn't it awesome? Princess Emnorawyn thought, I'm in battle. I retrieved my sword. Then she magically blocked the thoughts. She couldn't spare any extra thoughts now. Princess Emnorawyn felt time stand still as she watched her sword sail into the shoulder blades of the dragon on top of her Stygerguard. She wasn't sure how to adjust the wings to roll away because she usually closed her eyes during those maneuvers, but she felt herself rolling to the side. Still the lightning from the dragon that wrapped around the dragon to the sword knocked her even further away. Princess Emnorawyn lost orientation and altitude. Sizemore had just taken his turn to fly against the mudmen. They were doing well, and there were only about 20 rows left. Sizemore saw a shadow go over him, and he looked up in the sky. He saw a white dragon in the lead of 5 dragons. The dragons didn't look adult-sized. The lead dragon and 1 more were white, and they were flying as fast as they could. Sizemore placed a hand on his heart. Why don't I think that seeing baby dragons is a good thing? He received thoughts from his dragon, because young adult dragons don't normally fly into battle. Let's follow. Sizemore signaled the others, and several waved him on, and several also followed. The ones that remained would handle the remaining mudmen. King Rhymes had tried not to watch his daughter. He knew that would distract him too much and make him vulnerable. But once she grew wings and flew in to protect her dragon, he couldn't help himself. He saw the lightning hit her, and she wasn't straightening her wings. He got out his magical ball that contained her magic. He released the ball as he said, "Do whatever you have to do to save my daughter." King Rhymes saw a rope net wrap around her and hang in the air. At that moment, a flying gorilla flew into him and knocked him from his dragon. He was able to make a rope net for himself, and it encircled his dragon's neck, but he had no hope for getting back on his dragon. Princess Emnorawyn felt dizzy. She opened her eyes and saw the net she was in. She looked out across the field and saw her father dangling. He was dangling from his dragon. She looked up and didn't see her rope net attached to any dragon. Then she heard a dragon's battle cry, and she looked south. She saw 5 smaller dragons flying in. Princess Emnorawyn watched as the 5 dragons flew toward Stygerguard, as he still fought the replica. She could see Stygerguard's blood raining down from the sky. She gripped the rope net and peered out. She felt so helpless at the moment. The lead of the 5 flew in and bit the neck of the replica, and Stygerguard bit into the replica's chest. The 3rd replica fell from the sky, but Stygerguard could not maintain his altitude. He glided to the ground. Princess Emnorawyn wanted to go to him. The magical net dissolved around her, and she spread wings to glide to him. Daniel said to his group, "Come, we have to flank the princess. She will not know anything around herself." Daniel took off running, and the gorilla man was right behind him. Prince Hadley and Commander Offerton also started running. Prince Hadley said, "We can do the spell we said for ourselves and our dragons." "We can do that now," said Commander Offerton. "I forgot the spell once I fell off my dragon." Princess Emnorawyn glided to Stygerguard, and she heard the thoughts of the young adult dragon. "Dad, you can't die. I need you." Stygerguard thought, "Son, you must take my rider. You must finish what I could not." Princess Emnorawyn had a rough landing, but she managed to gain her balance. She went to Stygerguard and rubbed his scales. "I agree. You can't die. I need you." "Princess, this is my son, Steinerman, and my daughter Elsie is also white. They are the oldest. The other 3 look like my mate. They are Stillington, Brannerome, and Tilsey. My son Steinerman will now be your dragon." Then Stygerguard closed his eyes. Daniel arrived. "Nora, there is still a battle. Put him in a bubble so our enemies cannot get any more blood." Princess Emnorawyn couldn't see for the tears that flowed down her face. She threw her arms around Stygerguard's neck. She whispered, "I will make you proud of me." Steinerman thought to her, "I wish to grieve too, but the battle still commences. Can you ride with no gear?" Princess Emnorawyn wiped away her tears and glanced around. Prince Hadley finally ran up. He looked at Daniel. "You are the comrade to give her magical advice." He looked at Princess Emnorawyn. "Follow his advice." "He said I should put Stygerguard in a bubble," replied Princess Emnorawyn. She pulled out a magical bubble and placed it near Stygerguard. His body rose up and shrank down and went into the bubble. Other dragons were landing and picking up their riders. Daniel told Princess Emnorawyn, "We've discussed things, and we end this today." Then he and the gorilla man ran on. The ones with him dove into the battle against the other animal people. Princess Emnorawyn didn't know how they would tell each other apart, but she magically mounted Steinerman, magically retrieved her sword, and he lifted up in the air. All of the dragons and dragon riders flew onto King Zargarman's refuge, or fortress. They were attacking the fortress. Okay, riders, that is the end of chapter 35. Leave a comment on Stygerguard's son coming to join the battle. Leave a comment on Princess Emnorawyn randomly getting thoughts from Calatia. Leave a comment on the deaths of the mighty Stygerguard. I cry every time. Every time. And you see the tears are coming down my eyes right now. It's like, oh my goodness. My voice was even quivering. Leave a comment on if you forgot that a comrade was supposed to advise Princess Emnorawyn. Prince Hadley read that long ago. Right? Did you remember that part? And did you just kind of put it away from your head after the first battle? Join me Tuesday for some jargon and part 33 of your cave story. Join me Friday for chapter 36 of Princess Emnorawyn and Stygerguard. We're getting close to the end. It's 38 chapters. 36, 37, 38. So 3 more chapters. Visit my website by Michaela.com and read some character bios. If you read some, then leave a comment on which ones you've read. All your comments will help us start conversations and build our community. Keep all comments respectful, and remember that someone else's perspective can help you with your writing. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so we can continue to write together, and other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share it with them. This is Michaela with Write with Michaela. Bye for now.